when the devil, when he gets you to engage in criminal activities, there's a saying say he will take you further you want to go. He will make you pay more than you're willing to pay, and he'll make you stay longer than you want to stay. For some reason, in the street, people look up, especially young kids, look up to the bling, the cars, the women, and all that. But in essence, we that are leaders are leading them down a path of destruction.
Right.
And it's many that follow because it's a chain reaction. But then on the other side, when we make that conversion, we have an opportunity now to lead those that look up to us.
That's right.
To the road of deliverance and salvation.
Right.
That's how my first case got started.
Gotcha.
Because the pilot, my co-defendant was going to Colombia, and he was dealing with Pablo Escobar. In the early 80s, Pablo Escobar hadn't got that big.
Right.
From in prison, I watched him become who he was from the television.
Okay.
And I remained silent. There was nothing to brag about, but I knew his origin.
We're here for the introduction of In and Out. It's a movement to change the world. It represents all things and all of us at all times. It's about freeing ourselves of any prison.
Welcome to In and Out Podcast, where I have dope conversations with amazing people who have been freed from some form of prison. I am Eric Girolt, your host, and today I'm talking with my guest, Ferdel Williamson, as he takes us along his incredible journey of overcoming hardship, pain, adversity, and takes us along that journey of achieving success. What's happening, Ferdel?
Hey, how you doing, Obama?
I'm doing well.
It's my pleasure to be here, man. I thank you for the opportunity to come and to share my story.
That's what's up. I appreciate you. I want to thank you. I want to thank you for coming and taking time out of your very busy schedule, because I know you wear many hats and you're doing many things. I appreciate you for coming, sitting down with us and having this conversation so that we can impact others. I want to give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about yourself and what you're doing now. Just introduce yourself so, everybody knows who you are.
Okay, first of all, my name is Ferdel Williamson. It is my great joy and pleasure to be here with you. And like I said before, I really thank you for this opportunity, because we have to get our story out if it's going to impact the lives of those that is going down the wrong course.
No doubt.
I'm soon to be 62 years old. And as you know, we spend quite a bit of time together doing our journey. I like to say on vacation instead of saying in prison. However, we keeping it real.
That's right.
Doing almost 25 years in prison, straight 25 calendar years. As a young man, I grew up in the street, Fort Lauderdale, Miami area. At a very young age, I took to the street hustling because I grew up without a father. And I took on some of the burdens that a regular parent would have, even at the age of 12 years old, helping my mom paying bills, having 6 kids, and doing it all on her own. I was raised up in a Christian home. And however, that sometime when we become of age, we kind of think independent of our parents, and we do things that is not basically what we was taught. But along the way, being in a Christian home, there were certain values that my mother instilled in us that later on down the line, I was able to fall back on those things and get back on track.
Right.
But initially it wasn't like that.
Right.
Growing up in the street of Fort Lauderdale in Miami, we have a reputation. And so in high school, I graduated actually a year before I was supposed to graduate. I finished school in 11th grade, and then I went off to Southeast Academy.
Okay.
I wasn't a dumb kid, but I didn't have anyone to push me.
Right.
I did well in school. Then I went into the military. I was in the street, and we was always trying to get money. We was always hustlers, and I saw opportunity to make money when I was in the military, and I ended up getting kicked out the military. I was with a loan shark. I don't know if you know what a loan shark is, where you loan money at a 100% interest rate. I would loan a guy $100, but his paycheck, he got to give me $200.
Right.
And then I got into marijuana, because when I selling marijuana in the military, so when I began to see every 2 weeks, guys were getting paid, and after 2 weeks they broke again, and they just spending money. And I was an athlete in school. I never drank, used drugs or whatever. I was just strictly about making money.
That's dope.
So what I did, I got myself in trouble. I got set up by a friend.
Well, let me ask you this, and I don't mean to cut you short, and I want to go back to that.
Okay.
But I want to ask you, what are some of the things that you're doing now? Because I know you I've spoken to you, and I know you've brought different business opportunities to me. Mm-hmm. I know you've set up businesses, and this is quite I mean, this is extremely impressive to me. You were able to come home
Yes.
after serving 25 years in prison, away from society, away from your family. You set up businesses internationally in different countries. You have businesses that's going on right now.
Yes.
I want you to tell everyone else out there that's listening, the audience. I need them to know exactly who they're dealing with now. Then we're going to go back and we're going to explore your path.
Absolutely. First of all, I don't like to boast or talk about the things that I do or I have done unless it's in a testimony or to help somebody.
Okay.
I
respect it.
First make this statement is that I think it's embarrassing to be a multimillionaire at one time and in years later don't have that, that same status.
Right.
So I just wanted to make that known so people don't think I'm bragging or boasting.
Right.
But I will tell you that during my course, when I decided to change my life, that the Lord spoke to me, and I like to give God the praise and the glory and the honor because the place where I am right now, I can't take credit for that. The Lord spoke to me and told me if I be obedient to His word, He'll restore me back in place.
Okay.
So I have to say that.
That's what's up. God is great.
Yeah. So during my course in prison, a gentleman spoke to me and he said something to me that stayed with me. He said, "Son, even though you're in prison, don't let prison get inside of you."
Okay.
And I carried that during those years, and I applied myself. I re-educated myself.
Wow.
So the first thing I did was I wanted to write my story. So I got into writing. So I write books and I write movies. Some books I have published, and I just dropped a book just now.
What's the name of that book?
The name of the book is called Same Separate World. And you can actually get that book on Amazon if you just type in my name, Ferdel Williamson, or else type in Same Separate World.
Same Separate World. Y'all
Yeah.
check that out. Go ahead. Get
Yeah.
it on Amazon. You have electronic copies now, right?
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely.
Do you have it in paperback also?
Well, we're working on that right now. So
Okay.
it's on Kindle where you can download it and read the
All right.
book.
Dope.
So,
So you're a published author?
Yes.
That's one of the hats that
absolutely.
you wear. Awesome.
Yes. And so what I want to say is that I began to re-educate myself while I was in prison, and I realized and I prayed that one day I'm going to get out. I never had a doubt in my mind that I was going to spend the rest of my life in prison because that's one of my prayers. I asked God not to allow me to die in captivity.
Well, wait a minute. What type of sentence did you get when you were sentenced?
Well, when I first got sentenced, I got 27 years for drug conspiracy, which I never got caught in drugs. I'm not saying that, I wasn't involved. They got the right man.
Right.
They just didn't burn me clean,
Right.
I got 27 years. Then after that, I owned quite a bit of property in Atlanta, Georgia at the time, commercial property and real estate. So when the government came, they took my property and stuff. And so after that, let me see. Anyway, I had a thought in my mind, but let me just go back. When I came in prison, I studied credit and finance. Okay. So when I re-educated myself, I knew I wasn't going to be in prison forever. So I began to prepare myself for outside,
Right.
even though I didn't know exactly when I was going to get out. Okay. So I took some college courses, took some computer science, advanced computer courses,
Right.
because I knew that computer was the way of the future. When I came in, no one really had credit cards and no one was really on the computer.
Right. You're one of the fixers now, though, right? You fix people's credit. Isn't that
Yeah.
one of the businesses that you
Absolutely. That's right. When I went into credit finance while I was in prison, I began to get into credit finance because a gentleman told me he says, "Man, you can buy stuff on credit right now." Because I came to prison in 1989 and I got out in 2013, the end of 2013.
Wow.
So when I came to prison, myself and only two other friends had credit cards. So I knew nothing about credit. My thing was always cash was king.
Right.
Okay, well, the
Right.
gentleman
Right.
came
Being in the
in.
streets, that's how a lot of us thought.
That's it. Yeah. But the guy told me when I was in class, he says, "Listen, cash is king, but credit is power." You can actually buy and obtain things without having cash.
Right.
But because of your credit worthiness, you can actually get a loan to buy a house, a car,
Right.
whatever. And I was intrigued about that. So I started
Right.
reading all the material I can. And so I prepared myself to be able to obtain credit when I got out. When I came home, I realized I had no credit history at all. So the first thing I had to do was build my credit.
Got you.
So I purchased trade lines to build my credit, and I was able to circumvent time because most of my friends, when I came home, they didn't have homes. They was living in apartments, so was living with someone else.
Right.
And I was never that type of person because I lived on a higher lifestyle. And so I said, I need to make the different sacrifices to be able to get where I need to get. So right away, I worked at the airport. I saved my money. I purchased trade line. And within 2 years, I bought my first home.
Okay, that's dope.
Which I have right now.
Okay.
Which is in Covington, Georgia.
All right, awesome.
Right? Very nice community. And then after that, just like I said, I began to speak to people that's in the financial world and in the credit restoration business. It opened up doors and introduced me to people in different levels of society. So I had a fair cross-section society of people that I was engaging with every day.
Okay. And you're in the credit sector right now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the name? What is the name of your business? The credit business.
United Global Credit
United
Repair.
Global Credit
Repair.
Credit Repair. Okay, dope.
Yeah. So if someone need to get in touch with me, I can leave my number with you or whatever. Because I try to bring.
Well, at the end of this segment, you're gonna have an opportunity to give your social media addresses, your number, wherever you want people to find you at. Okay. At the end of this, this conversation,
yes,
you're gonna be able to tell everybody.
And I appreciate that opportunity.
There's a lot of people out there that need credit. Trust me.
Yeah.
I needed it done when I came home.
Yeah, and I like to say that I'll bring integrity back to the business, because credit restoration have gotten a bad name because people take the client's money and they don't do the job.
Right.
I'm the type of guy I don't like to lose in anything. So if I get a file, I stick with that file until I can help that client obtain the things that they want to obtain. Okay?
That's awesome.
Yeah.
What about some of the other businesses that you're doing?
Well,
I know you got some international ventures.
Yes. Well, I went into what they call medical transportation.
Okay.
Or medical tourism. I lived in the United States, but I also live in Dominican Republic.
Dominican Republic, really?
Yes. For the last 4 years, I spent 2 weeks in the Dominican Republic and I spent 2 weeks in the United States. I've been doing that for the last 2 years. So I'm back and forth, and I travel throughout a lot of other countries, Latin America.
How are you able to live how are you able to live back and forth? Was that what is medical tourism? I know what medical transportation is, I think. But
where right now it's extremely popular throughout the African community, Black community, where a lot of women are getting cosmetic surgery and they're going for a lipo and BBLs and breast augmentations. That's the business that I was able to start. Had 2 facilities in Dominican Republic. And so there was another mean of income, another business I was able to set up.
Is that popular in Dominican Republic, and why Dominican Republic?
Well, it's extremely popular in Dominican Republic because, first of all, it's very economical to go over there and get the procedures done.
Okay.
Because what they'll pay for a procedure, like say $12,000 here, they'll only pay $2,500 or $3,000.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And then on the other side is we in the United States, we're highly regulated that they can only take certain liters of fat out of your body at the time, during the time of surgery. But there are no restrictions in the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
So when the women go there, they get better results.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So that's one of the reasons why. And also I'm in the process with some clients to take them over to Medellin, Colombia.
Wow.
Because Medellin, Colombia with the dental, I recommend someone want to go to Dominican Republic for dental, but their expertise is not on the same level as Medellin, because I tried both places. I'm talking from experience, because I got veneers in the Dominican Republic, had to take them out, and then I ended up getting crowns partially in the United States, and I finished it up in Medellin.
So Dominican Republic it sounds like you're saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dominican Republic is better for the cosmetic surgery, and Colombia is better for the dental surgery or the dental work.
Yes, but let me explain, right? In a lot of cases, you're right. In the Dominican Republic, that's where all the surgeons are that is extremely good.
Gotcha.
But one doctor is not good in all areas.
Okay.
Because some girls are extremely big, their BMI high, and some doctors would not do surgery. But then there's some doctors will, and they do extremely good job to form and to shape these girls.
Wow.
In Medellin, they're not really good with big girls. They're good with girls that already kind of have a shape and have a decent foundation, and they're able to sculpture them and to really make them look good.
Okay, wow.
So that's why the Dominican Republic is more popular, in the world for surgery, because these doctors are extremely good. And here in the last 10, 15 years, African Americans start going over to the Dominican Republic because they wasn't into surgery like that. But it becomes extremely popular, and now the doctors are able to really define them and to get them looking how they want to, because before they didn't really understand, especially Black African American women with the shape and the contour we have, you know what I mean? The Spanish women are different. So the surgeons, when they look at them what they see as a woman that's very defined and nice is not the same as the black women in America and the other parts of the world.
Gotcha.
So after they begin to complain and being disappointed in some of their surgeons and explain it to the doctors with the curves in the back, how they want it to feel, then they got it down.
They got better at it.
So they're very good right now.
Wow. So how were you able to coming home from prison after 25 years? I mean, you've been home in the short amount of time you've been home, you've accomplished a lot. Like many would say, well, how in the world was you able to do that? Was it that you had strong lines of credit? How were you able to go over there, purchase property, set up these medical facilities? I mean, did you plan some of this when you were in prison? How did all of that come about?
Well, when I was in prison, I actually explored medical tourism.
You did?
Yes.
Wow.
And what happened was there was a problem. I had a hiccup. And the hiccup was that the insurance company would not insure a client that goes over to another country and then come back and need aftercare, and then the doctors did not want to work over someone else and carry the liability.
Okay.
So I kind of had just had a little interruption there until I met a young lady, and we went over to the Dominican Republic, and I found out that the doctors would carry the insurance. So it took that element away.
Doctors in Dominican Republic.
Yeah, the surgeons and the doctors say, okay, when they come over here, we'll carry the insurance. So what became very popular is the people start on the American side for aftercare. They start setting up these massage parlors and setting up these aftercare centers so the girls can, continue to get treatment once they leave from the Dominican Republic.
Okay.
And some doctors, which some of the injuries or whatever might be minor, and they just need to be looked and evaluated. And the surgeons and the doctors on the state side was willing to, see the girls. So it made it much easier.
Okay, wow.
And so getting back to credit now, once I fixed my credit, what kind of put me ahead a lot of people is because I was able to fix my credit, was able to obtain the things that I wanted. So I first bought a house here, I bought automobiles, everything my heart desired. I'm here to tell you that God had blessed me with that.
Right.
And I don't brag about vehicles. I got quite a bit of vehicles. And I was told when I was in Dominican Republic, being a foreigner, that I would not be able to buy property in Dominican Republic because, first of all, they don't have the same credit system.
You gotta buy it, right?
Yeah, you have to buy it right out.
Cash, no mortgage, no 30-year mortgage.
That's right. However, I spoke to an attorney, and we searched and found a banking institution that would pull TransUnion credit from the United States. And when people was telling me it was impossible, see, I believe as a child of God that things are not impossible for us. For a person in the world, the Bible says with man, things are impossible. With God, all things are possible.
And to that note, someone taught me that impossible really translated is I'm possible.
That's it.
I am possible.
That's right.
So I just wanted
the impossible for us becomes possible, and I'm saying that to you too.
That's right.
Don't let nobody steal your dream, and you have to have, and I have an attitude that failure is not an option for me, and that I was destined to succeed. So when I was able to obtain the property, they gave me 70% financing in the Dominican Republic. I have a home that's
70% financing.
70%
okay,
financing.
That's awesome. Wow.
And my home right now is valued at $1 million.
Okay.
You know what I mean? So I was able to go over remodel and stuff, and I actually live there now. Yeah, so that's one of the things that I want to say, to your audience, is that you have people that are dream killers.
Right.
You have to be determined and purpose in your heart that you're not gonna fail. And even though you get knocked down at times, you have to continue to get yourself up. It was not always easy for me, and there were some times when I was at a point where my cash flow was limited, and it looked like I was getting ready to go down. And I could remember one day laying in my bed, and I spoke to God. I said, Lord, you blessed me with all this stuff. My heart, I've had all these things in the past, so my heart is not there. I'm not caught up on material things.
Right.
But I take care of my mom, and I have a lot of other big responsibilities and things that got kind of tough. And I remember praying, and I said to the Lord, I said, Lord, you help me get these things. Now I need you to help me to keep them. And just look like out of the blue, things just start coming every direction, and God began to bless me and open up doors. I mean, just like you said, I wear many hats.
Right.
And one of the things I wanted to say too is I was offered an opportunity to sit on the board of directors of one of the biggest transportation company in the United States.
Wow.
That's getting ready to revolutionize transportation around the world.
How so?
So, how so is because the gentleman that designed, he's the founder, named Mr. Stanley. He had designed what a podway system, just like a railway system.
Podway system.
Podway system, and what it is a rail system that sets up over the highway, and it has 1, 2, and 3 pods that can carry 1, 2, 3 individuals, and you can go from, say, I live in Covington, from Covington to downtown, right? And it can go to specific locations. Normally a train system, or you have a monorail system, they go to one location, everybody get off the train, and then you have to find your way where you're going. No, this system is designed to put a grid over the entire city. And when you come out your house, anywhere between 4 to 8 minutes walk, you'll be able to find this pod system at the end of your street.
Wow.
You get on the inside, it comes up, it goes where you want to go, and it lets you back down. And I have the information. So we're in the process of putting that together right now.
This is something that's literally in the works.
It's in the works right now. It's literally in the works. And you can actually go on Google and Google TransitX.
TransitX.
/TransitX Atlanta.
/Atlanta.
And you'll get
go
a chance
to Google,
to see.
and you'll get a chance to see this revolutionary pod system that's going to revolutionize travel in not only the United States, but the entire world. And you sit on the board of directors of this transportation.
That's right.
That's incredible.
And it had opened up doors for me to talk to people at very high levels in various countries. I've talked to people in Panama, Costa Rica, visit Mexico, Medellin, the Dominican Republic, and I have an opportunity to speak to these people and be a part of their transportation system, what they're trying to implement in their country, and they're excited about what's going on. So in the very near future, you're going to see the system, in place. And I have to give God the praise and the glory, because there's a lot of work that went into it, a lot of finance, and I was somewhat like a broker to bring the finance.
Wow.
To help bring finance, to this project.
Wow, that's incredible. You to be commended. That's impressive. So Ferdel, so we've established you're doing a lot. Like you're literally doing, groundbreaking maneuvers, helping bring finance into revolutionary transportation ventures, such as the one that you talked about. You have multiple businesses. You're operating in different countries internationally, doing international business. But as you started to explain at the beginning of this conversation, you had to sit down for a long time. You're from Florida. You ended up doing 25 years in federal prison. In 1989, that's when you was first incarcerated, right?
Yes.
What type of charge did you get? And what led to that charge? What type of life were you leading that put you in a situation where, what was your mental thinking? What was your perspective at that time? What were you doing? Take us there.
Okay. First, let me say this. I'm an American citizen as well as a Bahamian citizen.
And you have been since a very young age?
Yeah. Well, my mom and my father's from the Bahamas.
Okay.
And I got my citizenship through them. Okay. So when I came home, I was able to, fly to Florida, to do everything it took, went to the Bahamian embassy to be able to get my citizenship. So
nice.
I could travel back and forth. Well, when I went to the Bahamas back in the 1980s, some of you may know, some might be quite young, but I came home from the military after getting kicked out of the military for loan sharking and selling marijuana.
Talking about that.
I came to the street in 85, and I began to see all my friends driving these big boy cars and everything, and what happened, the streets was flooded with drugs and cocaine.
Okay, this is in Florida now.
It's in Florida.
Okay.
And so I saw some guys that I grew up with that we considered to be lame guys, and they was kind of looked like they had it going on. And I said to myself, hey, these guys are not smarter than I am, you know what I mean? And if they can do it, I can do it too. So I came home with nothing. And then, so I went and visit some of my family members in the Bahamas, and come to find out that all the drugs basically that was coming into Miami and coming from Cuba and Colombia had to come through the Bahamas first.
This is when you, in the 80s?
In the 80s.
Okay, when you came home from the military.
When I came home from the military.
Gotcha.
And so I got into the drug trade by dealing with, from friends and family members from the Bahamas. And I actually started out smuggling drugs from the Caribbean, from the Bahamas.
So they would bring it to the Bahamas, and then from the Bahamas, they would bring it into Florida.
Yes.
And you had the connections in the Bahamas.
I had a connection in the Bahamas, but I started small. And when I say it started small, is that when I started, there was no such thing as DEA.
Okay.
There was no metal detectors and all the security measures that's in place now was not in place. We would go to the Bahamas, take duct tape, wear jumpsuit, strap the cocaine on us or whatever type of drugs and stuff, and we just walk straight through customs. And that's how I started. And there was a few interruptions, but nevertheless,
right.
Yeah. So let me say this: I end up meeting a guy, and I'm not going to mention his name, even though it's the past. Well, he was dealing with Pablo Escobar, and as time passed, I grew very fast, and I came to Atlanta.
You were one step removed from Pablo Escobar.
No, I wouldn't say that, but
okay.
my co-defendant, that's where he went to get his drugs from. I had a problem bringing drugs from the Bahamas, and when I met him, he said, "Hey, look, I have a Learjet. I go over and I get X amount of drugs, and I'll allow you to purchase certain amount of drugs."
Right.
That's how my first case got started.
Gotcha.
Because the pilot, my co-defendant was going to Colombia, and he was dealing with Pablo Escobar. In the early 80s, Pablo Escobar hadn't got that big.
Right.
From in prison, I watched him become who he was from the television.
Okay.
And I remained silent. There was nothing to brag about, but I knew his origin. One of the things, my first case started because we had a pilot, and I got charged with 100 kilograms of cocaine, even though the pilot flew into the side of a mountain and he died. They never got any drugs from me, but they got the drugs, and they charged me what you call constructive possession.
Okay.
Meaning even though they didn't catch me with it,
incredible.
When they said that I was responsible for 100 keys, they charged me for 100 kilograms of cocaine in Miami. That's how I came.
And where was the 100 keys?
It was on the plane. It was
in the plane that crashed into the mountain.
And the pilot was flying under the radar.
We can't make this up. You wouldn't even believe it, but it happens every day.
Yeah.
In the United States courts, all over in federal courts, people are getting charged with cases literally, like Ferdel is telling you, constructive possession. So the drugs is in a plane that you're not in, you're not driving. He flies into a side of a mountain and dies, and you get charged with the drugs.
I get charged with 100 keys of the drugs. My
right.
co-defendant got charged with 400 because we had 500 keys on the plane. So he gets charged with 400. I get charged with 100. He told him that 100 was mine.
Okay.
Well, I knew
your co-defendant.
That yes, but I knew that they never caught me with drugs, whatever.
Right.
So
what's 100 drugs?
Well, they got the right man. Like I said, they just did burn me. You know what I mean? But
we
knew nothing about drug conspiracy. So, but let me say this: that happened in 1986.
Right.
The drug conspiracy law did not come into play until 1987.
Sentencing Reform Act, 1987.
Yes. So they couldn't even pick me up on that, and they didn't.
Wow.
In 1989, as I continued my being in the drug trade, individuals began to start getting busted, and they said they was working for me. And so I get one guy that got busted on the street with 19 keys. He said that they was working for me. So they brought me in a drug conspiracy. Keep in mind, I'm not innocent, but I'm telling you, when I say they didn't burn me clean, is that I never got caught with any drugs, any money, whatever. My complete case is a hearsay case.
Right.
And conspiracy, because I wouldn't get down with the government, they gave me all this time. Right. I was looking at a life sentence in Miami. I got 27 years in the Middle District of Georgia. I got another 7 years for money laundering in Atlanta.
Right.
Then I was charged in North Carolina, and I was charged in Mobile, Alabama, because every time people pop up and say they was getting drugs from me, they was indicting me, and I was going to these different places fighting my case. So for 3 years, I stayed in transit, just going from state to state,
fighting your case,
fighting my case.
Now let me just take a pause for you legal hacks out there that might be listening. Hearsay is the thing, but as you were saying for this, so this is 1989, which is post-Sentencing Reform Act, which means that now they have the conspiracy laws, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then with the conspiracy, they have something which is an exception to the hearsay rule, which means that they can bring hearsay in under certain exceptions, right?
Yes.
Basically. Yeah.
So they reached all the way back to 1986.
Oh, okay.
And charged me with 100 keys, 19 keys.
They was able to bring that back in retroactively.
They was able to bring that in.
Wow.
Yeah. And I fought that case. Now, and it didn't stop. They felt like I told my lawyer to express to the judge that it was excessive because I've already had a lot of time. I prayed to God and I said, Lord, please don't let them put a life sentence on me, because in federal prison, life sentence means that your expiration date says deceased.
That's right. Life is life.
Yeah, life is
parole,
life.
Ain't no early release. Ain't no nothing. You going out in a box.
Yeah. So I just prayed and asked the Lord not to let me, spend the rest of my life in jail.
Right.
Which God
once again, you seem like you ask for every time, and I'm going to ask you about your religious background, because what I'm noticing and what I'm hearing from you is when you pray to God, you ask specifically what you want. You don't generalize it. You tell him, this is what I need from you, God.
That's right. And I believe with all my heart that I'm going to receive it. And there's certain things that God will tell me that I have to accept. And not to get off where I was going,
right.
but I will say this, is that I was in the county jail and I was facing one charge. And if you look up Williamson versus the United States of America.
That's you.
That's me. I won a case in the United States Supreme Court.
Wow.
I had a Jewish lawyer that told me I did not have a snowball chance in hell. I told him I was a Christian.
Right.
And he didn't want to put in the motion, but he says he's going to push it in anyway, and he had all the doubt in the world.
Right.
But shortly after, when they held the case back to hear the case, he came back and he says, listen, whatever you're doing, you keep doing it.
Right, you
and
doing it well.
He was a Jewish guy, and I was talking to him about Jesus. So he got a chance to see a
I like
miracle.
to hear about that conversation on the side.
He got a chance to hear, about the power of God, because he, being a young lawyer, got a chance to do something that lawyers working 40, 50 years never get a chance to argue a case before the Supreme Court.
And because of you, he was able to win.
Because of my faith, he was able to argue before the Supreme Court. So
that's
if you
awesome.
look up Williamson versus United States of America, it is a Sixth Amendment, right? Having the right to face your accuser. Because I had people coming up saying certain things that I never got a chance to face them. And so I was able to beat that case, and they were trying to put a life sentence on me. So that was a blessing in that case. But nevertheless, I still did a lot of time. But I could have been doing more time, because there were some people that had less than what I had and was doing more time.
You and I wouldn't know each other if you didn't win that case.
Yes.
And you wouldn't be right now talking and impacting others on In and Out podcast. That's for sure.
That's right.
How long did your conspiracy span for? What were the allegations of the conspiracy, from what to what?
Okay. My conspiracy, I got out in 85. I went to...
Out of the military.
I got kicked out of the military. What I didn't tell you is they didn't just kick me out to the street. They kicked me out to a retraining brigade. It's like a federal military prison. I did 2 years.
So you got charged in the military?
I got charged in the military. I got court-martialed. You seen that movie, A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise?
That was you.
That was me. I went through the same thing and faced the same
because
kind of
they
board.
realized that you was loan sharking and selling marijuana.
Loan sharking, selling marijuana.
So when you caught your charge, you had a criminal history at this point.
That's right.
Drug charges.
That's right.
Did they double your mandatory minimum?
Absolutely. That's the reason why they was able to give me so much time in the beginning.
What is that called? Is 851 is the gun enhancement. What is the
846? You have which one you talking about?
Doubling your mandatory. What did you get because of the criminal history?
It was 846 and a 956.
956G or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
I can't remember exactly. It's been so long.
Right.
But we used to study our case and do our own motions and stuff, fighting to get out of prison stuff. I just can't off the top of my head. But nevertheless, once I got kicked out, I went in 1983. That's when my case and everything started in the military. They sent me to the retraining brigade, the Starcade, and then like a little annex, like a prison.
You did
in
2
Kansas,
years.
and I did 2 years.
Okay.
When I got out in 85, I stayed on the street for 4 years. I was able to accomplish all the things I did in 4 years.
Right.
Because of my connections, because I was dealing with some high level, what we would consider now to be drug warlords. Because my co-defendant with the plane was not the only guy I was dealing with. I was dealing with some high profile guys, and they was actually trusting me with the drugs. So people thought that, hey, I will somehow have this connection or whatever, and I got all this money. But there was people trusting me, and I was, being trustworthy and stuff. So that's how I got it. I lasted for 4 years. And in 4 years, even though I was in the drug trade, people used to say, man, how are you dealing with all these drugs? And you don't use no drugs. You don't, I don't smoke, drink, never did it. I was just strictly about making money. And some of us, how we do it.
I already know.
And so for 4 years, I was able to
The money was the drug.
That was it.
Why you need anything else? There ain't nothing more powerful than money.
Absolutely.
And addictive.
That's right. So my reign was short. You know what I mean? So I had a very short reign, and I had to pay a big price to pay.
For a short reign.
And
Right.
I like to say this, especially to the audience, you know, dealing in when the devil, when he gets you to engage in criminal activities, there's a saying say he will take you further you want to go. He will make you pay more than you're willing to pay, and he'll make you stay longer than you want to stay.
Let me get that right. So the devil, when dealing with criminal activities, will take you further than you want to go.
Make you stay longer than you want to stay.
Make you stay longer than you want to stay.
And make you pay more than you're willing to pay.
And make you pay more than when you're willing to pay. You better
Okay?
keep that in mind.
So when you're dealing with the devil, there's strings attached to everything. But the Bible says with the Lord, his favor, there's no strings attached. You know, said so that's the reason why I decided to get on God's side.
Strings attached.
But I will tell you this, is that when I was in the county jail, and then I wanted to make a point about when I went to my money laundering case. When I was in the county jail and I prayed and I asked God to deliver me, to send me home when I was going through my case with the Supreme Court. And you have all the Ivy League colleges use my case when they practice the law, have to take the law exam. I had asked God to deliver me, and I remember when I was praying, he was saying, son, you just stand on my word. I stand on my word. I went into court with all the confidence in the world. I was standing on the word of God, and I got found guilty for that particular case. And I came back and I told God, I said, listen, you told me to stand on your word. And God said, yeah, you're right. I told you to stand on my word. I did not tell you I was going to deliver you from prison. He said, I told you to stand on my word. And so then the Lord asked me a question. And this is how it's been my journey throughout prison, even now, because I work with different ministries. I work with different pastors and stuff from around the world.
All right.
From Kenya, from Pakistan,
Around the world.
the United States
Really?
and stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So I have a Bible study on Facebook as well, and have people from around the world that join. But anyway, the God spoke to me. He asked me a question. He says, Ferdel, the work that you're doing, because when I got saved in prison, and I began to lend myself to the Lord and begin to help other guys that was in prison. You know, we did time, and you saw the work that God used me for to help young men that was going the wrong direction. Well, he asked me a question. He said, what is more important? For me to help you get out of prison, you start your life and go on about your life, or for me to use you in here to help save the souls of these other men?
Wow.
And I had to tell God, I said, Lord, to help save the souls of other men. So I bit the bullet that day. And I said, well, listen, God said, son, you be mindful of the things that pertain to me. I'll take care of you while you're in prison. I'll protect your family, and I'll bless you when you get out. God did exactly that.
Until your
For
cup
25
overflows.
years, none of my immediate family members passed away. All my brothers and sisters still alive. My mother is still alive. I have endless brothers that I was able to pray with while they was in prison. They lost their mother, they lost their family members, they lost their brother, their fathers, grandmothers and stuff. But God, he blessed me that when I was obedient to his word, to do what he called me to do to help others and not worry about my problem. He said, I got you. I'm raising you up here in prison to help these people, because the people on the outside that volunteer to come into prison, we really appreciate them. But when we have a brother that lost a loved one, they can't come from the street and sit and comfort them and talk to them.
That's right.
God had to raise us up, and he used you and myself to raise us up within prison to be there to help carry the burden of some of those other brothers.
Wow.
So that's what he did for me, and I had to bite the bullet. So some probably say, hey, well, you trust God so much you still did all that time. No, I was able to accept the will of God in my life.
That's right.
Because he had a work for me to do in there. So I had told God, I said, okay, whether in prison or out of prison, I'm gonna serve you. So it don't matter anyway. And you can attest to this, because people would tell me when I was in prison, they said, man, it don't look like you in prison.
I was about to say that now. When I met you, you never looked like you were in prison. You always had the same smile on your face that you have now. And after some time, when I was down, I started to, there was other brothers like yourself and other people that kind of taught me how to, stop worrying about the outside. And of course, I was in the Word also. And once that starts touching you, he lifts, he helps you, he makes you stronger, God that is, so that you can make it through it, you can make it through anything. And I started to get that same type of glow where people would, like they say about you, like, how is this dude so happy every day when he's in prison, always smiling all the time, like you don't have a worry in the world.
And knowing the time that we have, or the time we have already done.
Right.
Okay. Now, I would like to get back, if it's okay, to talk about my next phase of the other case briefly.
Yes.
Which is my money laundering case.
Okay.
Okay. When I was out in the world, I would take my money and I would just invest in property. I bought homes, I built homes, I bought commercial property in Lithonia. I had a lot of possessions, had cars, everything. You know how it is.
Right.
So when the government came in, they took a lot of property, they took a lot of stuff from me, but they didn't take everything.
Right.
So for quite some time, you know what I mean, I was all right while I was in prison. My family was doing okay, but again, all that stuff is gone. However, when I went to court, and I know, in the streets in the 90s, I guess Big Meech and a lot of other guys that we know, their names was ringing in the street, and a lot of people, I guess they kind of believed that these was the guys that was pace setters and trailblazers to kind of open up Atlanta, right, for this type of drug trade. But it actually started during my era.
In Florida?
No, in Atlanta.
Oh, that part in Atlanta.
Yeah, that part. Right. So they talk about those guys. I'm not trying to bring no glory to myself, but there was quite a few of us on the street, and I don't want to name the guy's name, but they're very popular in Atlanta. I was in that era with them. When I came to Atlanta in 1985,
right.
Even though these projects are torn down and they regentrified them, there was Bowen Homes, Eltha Ridge, Perry Homes, Hernan Homes, Capitol Homes, Techwood, and all these, Mechanicville.
That's right.
See, all these projects was up. And when I came from Miami, in Fort Lauderdale, these guys, they would claim different parts of the street and different parts of the city, and you can't just go there and sell drugs or whatever because you might lose your life.
Right.
But when I came to Atlanta, I went in some of the projects and I was in the drug trade, and I realized that it was disorganized. I can go in a different part of projects and sell drugs, and nobody said nothing to me.
Right.
And I realized it was not organized, so I organized it. And that's the reason why I said they got the right man. They just didn't burn me clean, because I came in and we wasn't, my era, we wasn't into all that killing and drive-by shooting. We were strictly about getting money. So during my time in the crew that I was with, we don't have no murders. We had conflict with guys, and what I did was I would go into these projects and get some of these guys and organize them. And we made sure that nobody came, and took the little space that we had. We made sure that we respect the people. They had habits, but they was putting food on our table.
Right.
And so I made sure that the guys respected them in that way. So now when I get locked up, it was alleged through the prosecution that I was the one that was responsible for bringing crack cocaine to Atlanta.
Okay.
You know what I mean? That's nothing proud to talk about.
It's just facts.
That's the facts.
Right.
During Rich Pryor era, it was free base. It was not the same.
Right.
When I came to Atlanta and I introduced it to it, people were like, hey man, these people don't want this, whatever. Shortly after, the next thing I know, they beating my door down trying to get it.
What's the difference between free base and crack, if you want to explain it real quick?
I think that I'm really, I've never tried it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And to me, the only difference I saw that the substance was harder and the base was stronger and more addictive from what people was telling me.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
You were just selling powder cocaine, not crack.
I was selling both.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? And what happened is, in 1985, when I came out, before 85, in the early 80s and starting 80s, a kilogram of cocaine was like $60,000. By the time I got into the business, a kilo of cocaine was $36,000. But in Miami, I can get it for 20. Then when I started dealing with my co-defendant flying over, we was buying it for 2,000.
2,000.
I was buying it for 2,000 a key, and I was selling it for 36 and 38,000. So you can imagine the type of, the money.
My head is already doing math calculations.
Yeah. But that's just a trick of the devil.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there's strings attached. He tricked me out of my freedom.
He had strings
I had
attached.
to pray to God to make sure he didn't trick me out of my soul. You know what I mean? So that's why I say I don't take pleasure in talking about those things in the past, but that's just what it is.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
well, it's a platform to be able to make an impact on others. So like, because you may be on chapter 50, we can't disregard and erase chapters 1 through 49. So it's not, you're not bragging, but in order to get to 50, you have to tell them about chapters 1 through 49. Well, if people see you now and say, well, Ferdel's doing good. This dude has multiple cars and multiple businesses, and he's doing great. Someone that might not know you, okay, we want to be like Ferdel. Okay, that's fine. It's okay to want to, to see someone that's being successful and to want to be successful like that person. But you have to also understand, what did Ferdel go through? You got to understand the history. So I don't, I just want to make that clear because whoever it may be, sitting in this chair when we having these conversations, it's not to glamorize or brag about things that happened in the past because, you might have the glory now, but you also had to go through the pain, and everybody don't want to go through that pain.
And let me tell you the biggest thing why I say that is because living in the world, and for some reason, in the street, people look up, especially young kids, look up to the bling, the cars, the women, and all that. But in essence, we that are leaders are leading them down a path of destruction.
Right.
And it's many that follow because it's a chain reaction. But then on the other side, when we make that conversion, we have an opportunity now to lead those that look up to us.
That's right.
To the road of deliverance and salvation.
That's right.
You see what I'm saying? So that's the reason why, I do use my past as a testimony. Don't brag about it. I just bring it up when I need to tell others that don't let the devil trick you out your soul, because it's a price you're gonna have to pay. I don't care what, if you out there doing wrong, there's no right way to do wrong. It's a price you're gonna have to pay. No right way to
do wrong. That's right. I'm glad you said that because we come to understand that we were natural born leaders and that we was leading a lot in our life, but a lot of time we were leading people in the wrong way to do the wrong thing. So as you grow and you go through things and you learn and you progress, now we're able to lead people in a good way and leading people to be able to, not have to worry about the things that they had to worry about when we was leading them in a bad way. So in all transparency, I do know Brother Ferdel, but a lot of these things that you're telling me today, it's the first time I ever heard this.
Yes.
I knew we were going to have a good conversation today and we were going to keep it real and we were going to impact people, but I had no idea that I was going to hear some of the powerful testimony that I heard today. So you took us through that period, what you were doing on the street, how you caught your case, the years that you got. And you were talking to God when you were in, I think you said, the county jail. Mm-hmm. So how deep into your sentence, how many years did it take? Was it instantaneous for you when you got that mindset change when you were in prison? Because you did a lot of time, Ferdel. When was it that you really started understanding? Because you knew one day you were going to get out because God told you. You knew that at some point you were going to get out. When did you really start in that prison sentence? How many years into it where you literally changed your life, even though you were in prison, because you were freed from the mental prison at that point. Mm-hmm. So you were still in physical prison, but now you had a mindset change where you were going to start helping others and saving others. Tell me about that when you were in prison.
Okay, I don't want to get too religious on you, right? But I have to tell you what the truth is.
Okay.
When I was on the street hustling, there came a time in my life, I wasn't even incarcerated at the time. It came a time in my life when I realized that, man, I'm going down the road of destruction. But I felt like I was in a vortex and I was in a whirlwind. I could not get out. So I remember driving up to my driveway. I had a Mercedes. I just bought a brand new Mercedes or whatever. And I remember feeling empty on the inside. And I had a house in Hidden Hills, Georgia, very nice house. And I remember driving, right. I drove into my driveway and I put my head on my steering wheel and I began to pray. Because remember, I was raised up in a Christian home.
Okay.
And I had different family members that knew what I was doing, was admonishing me and said, man, you need to stop doing what you're doing, whatever. So God began to convict me. So what I would begin to do is I began to go to church on this side of town. But on this side of town, I was a different person. I was a drug dealer.
Right.
So I put my head on my steering wheel and I prayed and I said, Lord, I want out this life. I said, Lord, I don't want it. I said, help me to be able to take care of my family. That's all I need. I don't want to do this no more. Now keep in mind, I created a machine where I had people working for me and just money coming in all day and stuff like that. And it was hard to walk away. That's right. It's not easy, but I still attempted. So when I prayed to God, just like God was talking to me and talked to me to this day, I remember the devil speaking to me. When I had my head down on that steering wheel, the devil said, boy, you trying to go to God behind my back. He said, I got something for you. When I heard that voice, one of the challenges that people have when they become a Christian, they try to figure out when God is talking to them, when it's their own conscience, or when the devil is speaking. Without a doubt in my mind, I knew it was the devil. He basically said, bro, you trying to go to God behind my back, I'm finna get you. And that's when everything began to unravel.
Wow.
Everything started coming apart. So before I left, I was dating a young lady that was a Christian. I asked her, I said, listen, can I take you out? This is when I first met her. She said, I will not let you take me to dinner unless you come to church with me. I went to church with her. Keep in mind, I'd already accepted the Lord as a young kid, but that's what mama say do.
Right.
You know what I mean? But when I come to my own knowledge and the acceptance of Jesus Christ, then that's the decision I'm making on my own.
Right.
So this young lady took me to church, and that day I accepted the Lord. Nevertheless, she was a virgin. And I ended up having intercourse with her one time. And I felt so bad about it. And I went to her and I told her, I say, look, I apologize, because she had already told me she was saving herself for marriage. But you know how we can be, very crafty and stuff like that. She told me, she says, I have already forgiven you and I've already went to God about that issue. 2 weeks after coming from Florida, my uncle tells me, hey, this young lady, she just died. She was out in California. I go to my mailbox, there's a card in the mailbox, and she's saying, the last time I saw you, I didn't see the same Ferdel. She said, I saw a new person. She says, listen, I know you probably want to give me, because it's around Christmas time, she said, I know you want to give me a gift or a present, but the best present that you can give me is to give your life to Christ. So the day I got locked up in the county jail, all that came down on me. Tears began to flow, but they wasn't tears of being afraid. They was like tears of joy, being released. So from the very first day I got locked up, I was already looking for a way out.
Wow.
So they could have actually let me out that day and didn't have to worry about me no more. But that's not how the system works. You see what I'm saying? That's why I was saying too, even though God forgive you, there's still consequences that you have to pay. And that's how come I did 25 years. But from the very first day I was in county jail, God had already begun to do a work in me. So that's why I began to change my life in doing the work. And you saw, the work from the time I was in prison. I worked for the whole 25 years, lending myself to the Lord to raise up the young men that's in prison. Some of them right now are ministers, they're teachers, they're deacons in church, they got businesses and organization and fundraising organization to help other people, men and women.
That's amazing. That's an amazing story, and I appreciate you for sharing. Ferdel, you gave us so much, and the time goes so fast, and we could go for another hour, 2 hours, if we had that time. But we can't today. We don't have the time. However, I had an offset conversation with you the other day, and you reminded me of something that I've been wanting to do, because I think a lot of times people just don't understand, and they don't fully appreciate that when we do time. Anyone that's incarcerated, physical time, incarcerated inmates being in prison, it's not us just doing the time. Our children do that time with us.
That's right.
Our parents do that time with us. Our loved ones do that time with us. And I want you to tell me about an interview that you had, and tell me how your daughter, or how our children, you speaking about your daughter, because you mentioned that to me the other day, but you also representing so many of our children out there. So many of us have children when we go to prison. Give me, just give us a little bit of that conversation that you had with someone. You said you did an interview with your daughter, with the lady, and there was something very significant that you found out and learned about your daughter. I want to hear it.
Yeah, well, shortly after I got out of prison, there was a young lady, her name was Rhonda, and she was just starting off, the podcast was kind of new, and she wanted to interview me, but someone had told about me, but she said, I don't really want to interview you about your story, because there's multiple stories out there about men and women getting out of prison and what they went through. She said, I want to come at a different angle. I want to interview you, but I want to concentrate more on what the child went through while you was away. So I asked my daughter, would she be willing? So me and my daughter, we went on the interview. And so my daughter told a story about what she went through while I was gone. She was doing good in school up to a certain point as she began to grow, get old, I think around 10, 11 years old. And all of a sudden she took a turn for the worse. Her grades started going bad, her attitude started changing, she started appearing to be disconnected.
How old were you when was your daughter when you got locked up?
When I got locked up, my daughter's mother was 5 months pregnant.
Okay.
So I actually saw my children being raised up in the visiting room.
Gotcha.
My son was 1 year old. Okay. My daughter was 5, but her mother was 5 months in prison.
Okay.
So yeah, I watched them grow in a bit. So nevertheless, my daughter, her grades was failing, and she was having mental problems and stuff like that. So the teacher called a conference for my daughter's mother to come to the school and for my daughter to come, because they're trying to figure out what happened to this vibrant, bright young lady to where she took such a down sparrow in such a short period of time.
Right.
So they begin to ask her questions. And one of the things to keep from making this lengthy, right, they wanted to get to the core of why she changed so drastically. And she said something so simple, but yet so profound. She says, I miss my daddy.
Wow.
Yeah. So some parents and some guys that I know that have gone through prison, their kids are mad at them. They have no relationships with them because they felt like you left me and my mom. You left us out here to fend for yourself, for themselves. But I thank God for my kids because they didn't look at the mistakes that I made, whatever. They loved me for who I was and who I am. And we have a close relationship because while I was in prison, just like you say, your family doing time with you. But I did everything I had to do to stay connected. Calling, making sure they visit, sending letters, sending cards, doing whatever, calling friends to make sure, hey, if you're taking your family, can my daughter go with you? And hey, can you drop some money by the house to stay connected in any way I can? Because it's not easy. So it does not always happen in a good way. But a lot of those kids are distracted and can't concentrate, especially when they have a tight relationship with their parent. So we always concentrating on the person that's doing the time and kind of like not really recognizing what the kids go through as they grow up. They need their parents. And that's why it's important for us not to make decisions that's going to cause us to be in a situation that jeopardize our freedom, because our actions is not just restricted to ourselves. The actions and decisions that we make, it affects the ones that we love. And when I realized what I had done, I realized that the very person and the people that I tried to help, I ended up hurting the most.
And that's powerful because, so many of us don't realize that our actions are going to impact the ones that we love the most. And that's what people got to think about. When you're out there and you're doing an act or you're doing something, you gotta think about the people that love you. You can't only think about yourself. You always got to think about, if I do this, you got to take into account the worst case scenario. We always like to look at the best case scenario. But if you're out there doing wrong, there's no assurances that the best case scenario is always going to happen. So if you're okay with and you're willing to live with the worst case scenario, then have at it. And that's what I'll say on that. If we go 5 minutes over or something, is that okay? All right. I really appreciate that, Ferdel. That's powerful and that's impactful. And that's real because, nothing in my life hurt me more than knowing that my children was hurting and the people that I love the most. And I'm sure it's like that for a lot of people. We got a segment that I want to do with you, Ferdel. Okay. It's the in and out segment.
Okay.
And I've got a couple of words and I just want to give you those words. You just tell me the first thing that comes to mind, a word, a phrase, a sentence, a thought, whatever it may be.
Okay.
Love.
Love. If I can take a brief explanation, I remember when I was in prison and I had lent myself to the Lord and I looked back at my life and all the mistakes I made, and I looked in the mirror one time and I said, man, how can I have a heart to sell drugs and destroy the lives of so many people? And then I spoke to God. I said, Lord, why me? God says, I'm after the love that you have in your heart for people.
Nice. Pain.
Pain is, like I said before, watching those that I love the most have to struggle without me, and the fear and the pain of seeing them missing me, struggling, coming up the road. My mother for 25 years, where no matter where they sent me, and keep in mind, it's 4 of us. At one time, all of us was in prison.
Wow, I didn't know.
My mother for 25 years, every week she was visiting the prison. My mother's an expert in the policies of entering, exiting prisons. Because for 25 years, because some of my brothers, some got 12, 16 years, we all was not even on the same case, but we was all, you know, they said the Williamson boys was some bad boys.
Wow.
So we was all in prison at the same time. And Mom was a soldier, and I have to thank God for her, because the prosecutor says, Miss Williamson, you have some bad boys. And my mom told her, say, they might be bad, but they're my boys.
No doubt.
But it was a lot of pain that she went through, and I think about her when that name come up, what she went through. But it was the love that she was able to penetrate through that pain, stand by our side.
Wow. Forgiveness.
Forgiveness. I dealt with forgiveness, and being a writer, I was able to use that as therapy, because for a long time I was mad at people that I felt that was half responsible for putting me in jail. But I had to come to the realization that it was my own actions that got me in the position I was in. So when I started reading and thinking about forgiveness, I realized that the forgiveness was not for the person that I felt perpetrated an action against me. Forgiveness was for myself. And I felt if I was gonna grow spiritually, I cannot grow beyond unforgiveness.
No doubt. I love it. Ferdel, what is your passion?
My passion is to always respect everybody. And you know that I have friends around the world, from Asian, Spanish, Black, white. And my passion is giving back, you know, and to see people grow, and to sit back, watch God work, and to see other people develop. That's my passion. You know what I mean? I just have a heart for God's creation. Because before, I didn't care. You know, I had a little racism in me because I grew up during the racial tension in the 60s and the 70s. But when God changed my life, I can see a man on the side of the street and my heart break for him. He homeless or whatever. God might say, bless him, whatever. So that's my passion. That's why I'm in the ministry. And it's not had nothing to do about any type of monetary gain. And I just feel like if I lose the passion to help people, I'm in the wrong ministry and I need to get out. So that's my passion.
No doubt. And this is the last one. When I say in and out, what does in and out mean to you?
In and out, the first thing that comes to my mind is the same thing. The young man told me, the old guy told me, he says, though you're in prison, don't let prison get inside of you. So in and out to me, it is a phrase of freedom. And the freedom is that no matter where you are, when you have God on the inside of you, the Bible says where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. So I felt like God is inside of me, you know what I mean? And I never let prison, you know what I mean, get on the inside. And then out is what God can produce in you, that he can take an ordinary person and do extraordinary things through them.
That's dope. I love that explanation. I love everything that you said. And so we at the end of our conversation. It was amazing. Mm-hmm. One of the best ones that I've had, and I've had a lot of good ones. I really appreciate you. I want to give you an opportunity to look, directly at the audience that's out there. Give some words of encouragement for anybody that might be going through it, anybody that's been through it, or somebody that might be going through it in the future. Let them know that just because, they may be at a certain place now in their lives, it does not define them. The book is not over. There's more chapters to be written. And then last but not least, make sure that you let everyone know where they can find you on your social media, where they can find you with your credit business, and how people can reach out to Ferdel Williamson if they want to.
Okay, hey, thank you. And first of all, let me say thank you for allowing me this platform to express myself, and to also use this as a therapy session to still get some of those things out of me that I hadn't had a long time to express. Even though I'm a writer, it's not the same thing. And so I wanted to thank you for this opportunity. I also like to say, to your viewers, is that, we live in a world right now where you don't have to be religious to understand that there's so much tension in the air and things are beginning to happen. There are a lot of relationships that you have that are broken. And I just want to say at this time, now is the time that we will go back and begin to mend those relationships. I've talked to women that don't even talk to their mother anymore. I talk to sisters, they're in the church together and don't even speak to each other. I've talked to men that don't have a relationship with their kids. regardless of what side, whether the father is wrong or the daughter is wrong, whatever. But we living during a time now where we really need each other more so than ever. Being a writer, I had an opportunity to write a play about choices, that I was able to go to schools and churches and youth centers and to tell people how important it is to make the right decision. If you have friends that are encouraging you to make the wrong decision, they're not your friend. If you're trying to make the right decision and they're not agreeing with you, they're not your friends. You have to get away from them. And I want to say this, is that my mother told me a long time ago. She says, show me your friends and I'll tell you who you are. And there's a phrase says, birds of the feather flock together. I think that now is the time that you should choose your friends wisely, because we're living during a time now where it's hard to find people that you can trust and depend on. My passion, again, is to help people. Even though I'm in the credit repair business, it's not just for a monetary gain. Like I said earlier, like to bring integrity back into that business. So I like to help people obtain these things that their heart desire. So if you are interested and you need some type of service or help with my services, you can reach me at 404-839-8297. Again, my name is Ferdel Williamson, and that's spelled F-R-E-D-E-L, last name Williamson. You can go on Amazon.com, go to Kindle, and you can either type in my name or type in Same Separate World and the book will come up. And what we did was we made sure we kept the book affordable, because electronic is only $6. So I'm asking for your undying support, because in that book, when Obama asked me about forgiveness, that's what the book is all about. It's about racial tension in the 60s, 70s, and the 80s, but it also is about forgiveness. And we come together as a people upon the face of this earth to live together and to love one another. And also, one more thing, you can find me on Facebook.
There you
Just put
go.
my
That's
name
right.
in, Ferdel Williamson. I have a ministry called Message to the Masses Ministry every Sunday, 8 p.m. at Eastern Time. And so no matter where I am, I broadcast from the Dominican Republic and also from the United States. So it's every Sunday, 8 p.m. And if you can't join us, I'm quite sure you'll love it and enjoy it. So we have Bible study. We speak about end times and things that's going on in the world today.
All right. Once again, we had another truly amazing conversation. I have to tell you, this has been truly one of the great ones. As our brother Ferdel Williamson, he is one of the reals. As he sat here and told you himself, he was one of the chosen ones, and we can see by his life's journey. He gave us testimonials right here. He has been literally chosen by God to make an impact on others. He was one of the few people that I was able to meet and know. He served 25 years in prison, and every day he maintained a smile on his face as he reminded you that the devil is a lie. He is a dream killer. So if you follow in the lead of the devil, he's going to have many strings attached. Like he let us know so many times, failure is not an option. Impossible really translates to impossible. I appreciated having him. He told you how to reach him. We appreciate you tuning in with us, and we want you to continue to tune in. Remember where you can find us at INNOUTWW. That's In and Out Podcast by Eric Gerald. Continue to look in, continue to check in, continue to join us at the In and Out Podcast by Eric Gerald on all social media platforms and wherever you get your podcasts. We appreciate you for tuning in, and now we're out.